Once upon a time, there was a world without the perfect hero. Like so many things were distinctly human, a hero was born without the powers of strength, courage, agility, intelligence, stamina, and willpower. Early thinkers made electronic amusements, cheap crew entertainment, arcade video games, old cell phone games that would transform from time to time to something potential and alive. This would not just happen by electronic wizardry, but by the endeavors of gaming artists, designers, and entrepreneurs whose initial goal to entertain also came to challenge, captivate, and align hundreds of millions of people across the earth. The men and women who created this gaming industry allowed their own experiences and the world around them to inform their gaming creations. This is the story of the perfect hero. This is Video Game Wars, Legend of the Flawless Hero. I loved video games when I was a kid because I had the same experience that I had when I watch a movie that I love or read a book that captures my imagination. When I was a toddler, I'm a passive observer instead of being active like other kids. Video games have a really interesting role to play in the future of other species. We're just starting to figure out how to play them. When I was a young kid, I feel like video games at this point are intrinsically linked into our culture in a way that it's irrevocable. From here on, it goes deeper, as video games grew deeper and deeper into everything we're doing, until they're just part of our lives in a way we don't even notice. All media is relevant to its time. For example, records and cassette tapes disappeared from existence, but music didn't disappear, it was digitized. The same is true for movies and books. They evolve from one form to another. For video and mobile gaming, the evolution is the same. They will change and evolve from time to time. They will forever be a part of our global culture. More than 2 centuries, videos and mobile games still exist. According to the Entertainment Software Association, the average gamer has been playing video games for approximately 12 to 15 years. Adult gamers have been playing for an average of 17 years. Males average 17 years of gameplay, while females average 17 to 21 years. As of 2024, 78% of all US households own a video game console, while worldwide, only 20% of worldwide own a game console, and those that do in USA own an average of 2. The average game player's age as of 2024 is 36, and no, it's not all males. 46% of gamers are females. 63% of gamers believe that computer and video games give them the most value for their money, compared with DVDs, music, or going out to movie theaters. Who buys video games? The average age of the most frequent game purchaser is 36. The point? Video games have grown up, and now they are not just in arcades or our living rooms. They are also in our pockets. 52% of the most frequent gamers pay to play online games, while 79% play games on their smartphones, and 78% play games on a handheld device. Most gamers who own dedicated game consoles use them for other entertainment media as well, like watching movies, TV shows, and music. Are gamers social? 80% of all gamers play games with others, either in person or online. What about rating game content? 84% of parents are aware of the ESRB rating system, which rated games content and match it with the appropriate gaming age. E for everyone, T for teen, M for mature. But the question on a lot of minds is, do parents really control what their kids play? Nearly all parents who use these parental controls available in all new video game consoles are useful. Further, parents impose time usage limits on video games more than any other form of entertainment. 9 out of 10 parents are present when their children rent or purchase a game, and 83% of the time, children receive their parents' permission before purchasing or renting a game. Much like movies, games have specific genres and subgenres such as action, adventure, RPG, casual, shooter, strategy, open world versus linear, sports, and racing games. The list goes on and on. And each genre offers its own special mix of interactive entertainment. And yes, each is wildly successful in its own way. In 2000 to 2024, video games have gone from $30 billion to over $522.46 billion globally in industry, far surpassing movies and music. The bottom line, video games are here, and Flawless Hero was there from 2012 to 2025. But where did all this begin? The answer is, well, a bit complicated. That's the debate of the century. Who's the father of the Flawless Hero? And you can always say Yoichi Irikawa and Keiko Irikawa because they founded Koei Tecmo. But whoever created this hero has to be one of the video games who made this hero. Others say Shanto Furukawa because he's the second president of Nintendo. You can't just pick one because it's doing injustice to all the other people they have helped develop the heroic of gaming. I appreciate that they did. The Flawless Hero was born with magical, extraordinary powers, and they told me to keep my powers secret. And unlike any other hero, I did the exact opposite. One Interaction Studios shooter game I was used to play was Chicken Invaders franchise. And I played that after school times while working on projects, and I felt if I could bring this to the arcade, it would make a lot of money. It was a game developed as a demonstration of the capability of a digital equipment corporation, Windows XP computer back in 2001. A group of students and employees wanted to create this franchise that really would showcase the capabilities of survival features that had one particular feature they were really interested in, and that was the display screen. Before the games were born, most computers had paper tape outputs that were scripts, but modern games had actual screens on it. Our heroes did the job in other everyday activities to make sure that none of our brave heroes get infected with malware, so they could do many activities smoothly and securely. Others know that a hero was born without powers at first. Then the ancestors hand over powers for a hero to possess their magical abilities as a byproduct of the old technology. As usual, the truth is somewhere in the middle. While many industries and innovators combine to pave the way even for the possibility of the first innovative hero, there's little argument as to the visionaries and the old generations that finally brought those heroes to the public in a big way. Seriously, the president of Nintendo brought to Mario franchise the understanding of what makes a good game. He played a lot of games and understood them. When the game developers started inventing the games, we found out the games that were most successful were those that were simple to learn but impossible to master. Chicken Invaders was somewhat of an accident. It was what we considered to be too simple, but when it got all wired up and it was done by the AI system, international designers put in some twists to it that were just remarkable and make it a massively fun game. One of the design features flaws in the original Chicken Invaders was the spaceship would not go to the sides of the screen all the way, and they were going to do it, but I didn't get around to playing it, and I realized that this feature kept good players from playing it forever. It would never end. The coming of the video games referred to an RGB or red, green, and blue raster or for video game display device. Let's take Super Mario Bros. For example, the original. This is a bitmap image of Super Mario Bros. When played, it transitions the map from left to right. Zooming in further, they can be analyzed, with the colors constructed by adding the values for RGB. A bitmap is technically characterized on the width and height of the image in pixels, and by the number of bits per pixel or color depth, which determines the number of colors per pixel and ultimately the image can represent. The more bits, the better the games, videos, movies, and TV shows look. More bits, however, meant more memory was needed, which was in short supply in the early days of gaming as a prodigious hero. This resulted in games that looked blocky and simple, but that didn't stop designers and gamers from diving headlong into this amazing new medium. Over time, and as our heroes and technology advanced, 8 became 16, then 32, 64, 128, 3D, and so on. With each generational jump in graphics, image fidelity, the depth of story and immersion in games seemed to progress as well, including our hero, from nursery games to open world, such as Minecraft, then Roblox, then GameHouse Delicious, spin-off games, then Chicken Invaders, and finally, Musou Orochi franchise and vice versa. A prodigious hero was slowly evolving, and those on the inside were growing up with the very art form they were creating. It was a 32-inch Windows Vista PC gaming monitor. It's called the gaming desk, and to show you how different things were changed. Basically, it allowed you to play wild tangent games. Old consoles with Magnavox machine play old games, Pong, tennis, etc. And those gaming consoles don't have real graphics. They were just squares of light on the TV screen. So they were Mylar overlays that you would stick on the screen. And so then you put up like a haunted house. And then all of a sudden, the white ping pong ball would be like a ghost. Moving through the house. So you have to use your imagination and those Mylar overlays to understand the story they were trying to tell. GameHouse presents Delicious, the cooking time management game of the modern times. Delicious easily attached to any brand TV, black and white, or color to create a closed-circuit electronic playground. Delicious Emily gives you all the exciting time management games to serve items to customers, such as food, drinks, party stuff, and more. In fact, there were 19 Delicious Emily seasons that were challenging play and learning games for the entire family. I had my high school classmates in 2021 when I was in high school, and they had learned how to do daily routines, getting ready for work, exercise, and picking up the chores until each bedtime. One of my classmates pointed at me and asked me, "Do you play video games?" And I said, "Well, yes, but what is it?" And they said to me, "Video games are used to gain knowledge and skill." The first game that I ever remember playing was Dynasty Warriors 3 on the PlayStation 2 console. I was 5 years old and was in the old apartments, and I was just blown away by the fact that you could manipulate an image on your television. My first console I remember playing was the PlayStation 2 by Sony. We played Bijo, Bookworm, GameHouse, Hidden Objects, Puzzle, Open World, Minecraft, Roblox, Dynasty Warriors, Cookie Clicker Collector, and Adventure Capitalist. I love all the GameHouse Original Stories games. I remember my classmates saying "Wow, look at all the graphics. spin-off of delicious games was like a wonderland because there were so many spin-off games resemble the original format. There were side quests, but it was amazing. You just see the same screen all over and over again. I knew enough about computers to that it was a computer game, and this was simulating, the chicken invaders with one ship on the ground who defends Earth from this chicken invasion, and it was almost like being there. Even with those rudimentary graphics, it was just the first time I'd ever had control over something on the television or something on the screen. Probably the most memorable console of my entire life and something that I miss that I wish I still had was my original Nintendo Entertainment System and PlayStation 3. One thing I love about Nintendo is that they have Wii consoles to play sports and train their fitness to fit their bodies with the movements. On the other hand, PlayStation 3 has some other games that I miss playing: Dynasty Warriors 6 to 8, spin-off, and Warriors Orochi 3. Your parents help you hook it up. What's it like to play Wii Sports on other Nintendo consoles by the Nintendo Entertainment System and PlayStation 3 by Sony Computer Entertainment? When you play the system with most arcade hits, you're playing with power. Video game system, where a powering imagination begins. One of the reasons we get nostalgic about things is it's not necessarily the thing that we were doing. It's not that song, game, movie, or book. It's what was happening in your life from time to time. It hits at exactly the right time in my life. And then GameHouse made spin-off games to make it more nostalgic and amazing storyline system. Newer games from GameHouse got better faster than it seems. Before I made it to the families, everything didn't look as great as the other games did in the arcade. But by the time Fabulous Angela came out, things started getting a more better, colorful, more fashionistic. I was fortunate to first be exposed to GameHouse as a consumer. And for me, that very first system I exposed on was Windows 7. And I have many fond memories and many great stories around my interaction with that system. I played delicious games for many, many hours. Other playing games like Roblox, RPG, adventure, action, FPS, hangout, and simulation of these fantastic experiences that, for me, were my first gaming experiences since January 2012. And I eventually got Congregate, and then I was all about adventure capitalist. And I was so into Cathy's Crafts, Mary the Chef, Maggie's Movies, Dr. Cares, Sally Salon, Parker Lane, Airbus Airline, Primrose Lake, and all other stories and what was gonna happen next. Most of the games, when we got into the Super Rescue team, all of a sudden you had a reason to go do this because you were trying to save somebody who is also a hero. And so just a little bit there brought story elements into each game. And what I think was really great about GameHouse during that era is they really wanted to make sure that every stories are unique and complex on the storyline that were really high quality. But Playrix was an entirely different thing. Playrix was my experience in elementary school as the GameHouse was to my experience in high school. That was a very state-of-the-art console back then. In 2012, I, the flawless hero, played Roblox when I was in elementary school until I faced many challenges across the world. Alright, their games are getting ridiculous. So I got Roblox in an iPad. Hey gamers, your portable consoles have arrived. Pack up your stuff, cause I got a little surprise for you here. Check it out. What do you think about that? Roblox has millions of experiences. RPG, work at a place, tycoon, simulation, and hangout. I'm gonna give you a personal demonstration. You can't stop, Grandma. You can't. Oh, you go, gamer. Roblox. It's free, powering imagination. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave, Roblox gamers. All of a sudden, you had this extraordinary amount of data on one disk that could also play music and everything else. To me, it was a portal to modern gaming today. When Dynasty Warriors 8 came out in 2013, it brought me and other people into a world that they hadn't really participated in before, the 3D world. It was an immersive world in a time when there wasn't many games until I know. And over the years that has grown, people latch onto that one. When I talk to developers and I talk to fans and message them across the globe, they always hark back to their first experiences playing Roblox. And they touched them, and it was something special. And I begged other people for an invitation. And it wasn't until the Windows 8.1 came out that some people finally gave in. If we go to the PlayStation and the Windows 8.1, you started to see 3D for the first time. What that allowed the vision of other gaming experts to do was to say, now that I have the ability to manipulate polygons in real time at a quick frame rate, then instead of just going back and forth, now I can run around in circles or move into or out of the screen. So it brought a whole new dimension to the universe. And the controller was actually designed with an analog joystick to be able to control that movement. It started to add a whole new dimension into what many gamers were used to. And so for a long time, it has been this too, sort of parallaxing 2D planes. But as you move into that 3D era, you started to see people start to play with, asking, what are the kinds of mechanics we can do now? What are the things that we can actually play with? What's this new world of this other dimension? And so you know it was painful at first. Certainly the prodigious hero had good examples of it, but it was difficult. It's hard to give gamers this whole other level of freedom that they weren't used to. And then we started getting consoles that were bigger and better, and you could bring in more 3D environment. Better frame rate and better sound, such as Dolby Digital, DTS Surround, and Sony Dynamic Digital Sound. And then you could put more polygons on the screen, so the guys could look more realistic. Finally, with the Microsoft Windows console, you started to see some really interesting stuff happening. I, the flawless hero, and every gamer started to get avatars on screen that were more representative of people. They are easier to understand what they are trying to make you go through, especially on PlayStation 2. It started to feel like we have enough graphics to really render interesting people in characters. You know, in games, they weren't real, but they were real enough. And so gamers could start to believe in them more. I had grown the gaming business pretty well and was starting to look at my Roblox career and thinking, wow, that would be a nice business for us to be in. But we really didn't know anything about it. And then one day, these gamers walked into my office. They were from the DirectX team, the Adobe Flash Player team, and they say they had this idea to put DirectX and Adobe Flash Player into these boxes called DirectX and Flashbox. DirectX is the name of the Windows API for gaming, while Flash is another Internet Explorer API for interactive software. So these DirectX and Flash boxes were basically acts like a game console. on the outside, but on the inside, it was a PC running Windows and DirectX. That was the original plan. And so, what I think we didn't really understand at the time was that we were really bridging these two games. That Xbox was the bridge between what was happening in the PC gaming culture and what was happening in console gaming culture. And then we got to Wii. Really said, okay, this version of Wii gonna give us enough power to really go back and revisit that idea of telling an interesting, character-driven narrative in a way that we might be able to do that no one's done before. First time that I held Wii Remote, it was a piece of plywood with some electronics tape onto it, and they had a demo of any games or channels I encountered. And when I first picked up and started playing Wii Sports, I thought I could say, this is going to be athletic. That was the first thing that popped into my memory headquarters. It was just so much fun. The Xbox 360 is a spectacular console, known for playing Dynasty Warriors 6 through 8. It's just fantastic. I used to love it as well as PlayStation 3, but I use better consoles than them. Not really interested in, the holy wars about which console is better. They are fanboy legends is how you and the heroes can say it. I like Nintendo, Sega, Sony, Minecraft, or Roblox. This is actually what happens because I was a kid. I would have had a Dynasty Warriors or Warriors Orochi and PlayStation 4. I would have had a PlayStation 4 and a Koei Tecmo or Mega 4 system if I could have afforded it. But, you're still a child. You can't afford all that stuff. So then you start defending the one data you have, and that's what that comes from. Xbox. No, PlayStation. I still, to this day, stay up till 11 at night, playing the latest game that came out in the gaming store, or whatever it may be. I'm always constantly still immersing myself in it. With the continuous waves of technical and artistic changes sweeping over the industry and heroic knowledge getting bigger and bigger, the heroes began to anchor themselves within the public consciousness, many starting to argue that games are as much as art form as anything else. The trouble is with art is it's a subjective term. One person's art is another person's rubbish. And this is where you come back to semantics of the word art, which is problematic. Whether that is a film, or whether that is a book, or whether that is a printing, or whether that is a computer game, it elicits a response. It makes you think about the world or look in a slightly different way. I always believe that heroes are absolutely an art form. As GameHouse team said, it's the culmination of every form and art and expression that mankind has ever had goes into each game. You look at the staff and crew that build a video game. You have music composers, writers, sketchwork, art designer, technical artists, level designers who create spaces much like architects. It really is kind of Dynasty Samurai Warriors Orochi of talent when you really think about it. Nowhere is it more obvious than in video games. You have these artists creating these beautiful three-dimensional worlds, and the technology allowing players to come into those worlds and have them be as real as possible is the ultimate example of art and science working together. The best description of art I ever heard from a professor of mine was when I going for Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires, was that art is somebody who's put together something that deliberately provokes a response in an audience. The customer actually is a participant in the art. It's almost like being part of a great art experiment about a living art experiment. Yeah, there's a lot of basic logistics. Like you push X or up and it happens. But if that's all games were, wouldn't be playing them anymore. We would have lost interest a long, long time ago. Surprisingly, modern gaming technology is still based on the same fundamental concept of early gaming tech, combining new layers of science and art to reach higher levels of innovation and expression. Modern gaming systems represent not only quantum leaps in hardware and graphics, but also the utilization of parallel data processing and memory within the cloud storage. What does all that mean? Simply put, it means from here on out, anyone will be able to play games anywhere, anytime with amazing speed and quality, even offline. The cloud is something that you hear a lot about these days, and there's really two very different concepts. The first one is the one that we all sort of understand as being the cloud. I've got a photo, I want to upload it, and I want to tweet. This is all being uploaded into the cloud servers and stored on hard drives. So, think of the normal version of the cloud server farm as a lot of storage space. There's another very, very big idea, which is why not use the PCs and the cloud to give you computing power that's far beyond what you would generally want to purchase for yourselves. And what that means is that the software that you would love to experience will be running there, and then the actual screen, the video, or the output from the game is delivered directly to wherever you are on whatever device you're on. There's more processing power in the cloud behind Xbox One than the complete processing power that was on the planet in the year 1999. We are now able to put scenes on screen that are almost beyond lifelike in some ways. But then you have the power of the cloud behind that box that allows us to draw upon thousands of web or gaming servers to help make the box that's in your home actually significantly more powerful than it is by itself. But there was a time when the future of this mega heroic gaming industry was in serious jeopardy. After the explosive financial and cultural success of the first generation video games, the industry began to think it was invincible. When all the gaming companies except Roblox Corporation saw that there was a market for video games, and it just, they flooded the market with so many games for players to choose from a range of categories. There were a few companies out there they really want to show they have a really awesome game for many heroes and generations. But then there were, for everyone really awesome game from GameHouse. There were 100 really ancient games in the pool of gaming system. What happened was there was this manufacturing of great expectations that the next Christmas would be better than the previous games. And people move on to something else. People got tired of being sold the same game in repetitive format with pretty poor entertainment experience. People started to produce games at a very accelerated frame rate, and the quality of the gameplay went down substantially to the point of where some of the games were so bad that they ended up having to throw a lot of them into the landfills. With scores of new game developers and the new attributes of the flawless hero springing up overnight and adventure capitalists pouring money into what seemed to be a sure-thing product, the writing was on the wall. The market was being saturated, and in 2015, the final nail was driven home. The flawless hero made a deal with GameHouse to create a studio adaptation of the new television studios company, Fabulous Angela Film and TV Studios. Only from Fabulous Angela, made especially for systems from GameHouse, the video game that lets you help customers and serve customers to run the fashion business. Fabulous Angela, where the fashion, television, and reality live. With only 2 months to invent the Fabulous Angela television station, Fabulous Angela scrambled to put out an unknown substance. Overconfident and high on their previous success, in autumn 2019, Angela shipped thousands of clothes to stores despite its poor quality. The backlash was legendary. She created a ripple effect throughout the fashion industry, and by the end of 2019, customer confidence in Fabulous Angela fashion stores in Hollywood had reached an all-time low, and GameHouse, along with many other original stories, went down like the Titanic. So, there came a lot of conflict and the whole management style blew up and GameHouse basically took over. They put new characters in, such as barbarians who were from the medieval era, no experience in entertainment, games, technology, or any kingdoms that were formed. And they just didn't really understand or play games. So, when you're that way, it's really hard as a president of game company to really assess the quality of what's going on. It was that kind of attitude and creating terrible products that was driven by advertising and marketing and not by any content. As a result, it didn't sell. The one story about GameHouse old games being buried in the desert is actually a true one. The fact that GameHouse rushed through these original stories just to have it released with the movie to use the license of Hollywood because LA was huge in the 80s. Both GameHouse and Nightfield Games, these were two of the companies that didn't do well. They were trying to cram something into the New York to LA that they did not want to be unique. The big market crash happened in 2019, and Fabulous Angela was unloaded the fashion clothing line for next to nothing. Everybody just thought they should sort the games into categories onto the system, and it was the first lesson that the industry learned in the fact that the consumers are smart, especially gamers, managers, professionals, and you can't just put shuffleware out there for them. They will not buy it. But after the crash, they realized that, for a lot of people, it being a fad. But for a core group of people, they still wanted to play GameHouse Original Stories. For a couple of years after the crash, many people thought that American time management video games, GameHouse Original Stories, would be relegated to the popular fad section of 21st century encyclopedias and forgotten. Enter Roblox, an online gaming company who understood that the top 10 popularity of the latest games like Work at a Pizza Place, Brookhaven Roleplay, Lost Fruits, Tower of Hell, Murder Mystery 2, Meat City, Piggy, Royal High, Jailbreak, and Restaurant Tycoon 2 provided that most gamers like to play as a character, not just a spaceship or nameless blocks of pixels. Even with the crudity of the early graphics, the concept of immersion in being a character was still very appealing to the public. And little did the world know, their video game character was just around the corner. This is Roblox, a sandbox building game that lets you create and play video games on your PC. This is called Build What You Want. An industry analysis says that there may be a run on this as a holiday demand exceeds the supply. This is Tycoon. It's been a long-awaited game. Paintball was very, very popular. Pinewood Research Facility was extremely popular. Now the Tycoon base is coming out. It's been the best-selling games in this country for many years around the generations. 30 million of Roblox gamers now inhabit American living rooms. Because of the crash, no retailer wanted to touch the video game system. And so, a lot of what Roblox developers did was to try to come up with something that was uniquely different. It wasn't just a game system, it had other features including the server systems. And eventually, they came up with Miner's Haven, the robotic AI companion, and the laser gen and two genres. And they sold them as the game developers. Even with that, it was a hard sell to get the retailers to take them, but it was fairly successful. And during that first initial phase, Battles came out and that sold like hotcakes. It was an extremely successful title. Roblox was a big landmark system because before that, there was a real question mark about whether or not video games were gonna be able to stay popular. You know, there's the big online game crash and then Roblox showed them how the developers can bring them back and make them really popular again. I remember seeing Welcome to Roblox building for the first time and just being completely thrown away. It was like, wow, there's an arcade in my house. This is the coolest hobby to play. And Town of Robloxia was great. And Range Escape RPG was also great. And so I put a lot of hours as a player into those early Roblox games because I love those early Roblox games. I saw kids play Roblox and said, wow, this is unique, new, different, bring new experience to the consumer. I saw the original Tycoon and said, wow, this is new, this is different. The same for the original Tales of Range Escape RPG. So, after the online gaming crash, I kind of fell out of love with Roblox for a while and just ignored them. And then, one day, the gamers post them on social media. I go over to their videos and he has his pay to win with the t-shirts, game passes, and he has the cheat codes and we're playing the RPG games and then he fires up with the Space Tycoon. And I was like, okay, this is some next level stuff. And I remember the first time that I jumped and hit a block that was there that I didn't know was there. One of the secret blocks with an extra life in it. My mind just blown up because there are secrets in games now. With the rebirth of GameHouse Original Stories industry, a new breed of series was rising. The appetite for simple maze-based games was waning. Gamers were ready for more. Becoming a character, living out a virtual story, and being absorbed in something otherworldly was not just technically possible now, but the expectations for deeper, more immersive experiences was growing. As the gaming businesses evolved, people were making larger and more complicated games. It requires 30-page manuals and 80 hours of gameplay to get into. You never really care about the characters in Roblox and Minecraft, you know? It was just Roblox and Minecraft were addictive games. But now, many gamers, with the exception of the Flawless Hero, not only spend more money on games, but we see them as entertainment mediums where we want to be invested in the story. We want to be invested in the world. The huge difference is that the older games were a lot tougher than it looks. Like, if you did not get your jump exactly right to land on a platform, you were not getting through that level. Timing was everything. Now you have a lot more skills. You can kill a boss in many different ways. It used to be before that the whole point of a Space Invaders was shooting pixelated aliens that were falling out of the sky. But we didn't know or care why those aliens were falling out of the sky. We just wanted to shoot them. But nowadays, not only do we know why those aliens are falling out of the sky, we know the names of their moms and we know their future children's names and we know we have to destroy all of them. I feel like games as they develop throughout time have kept a lot of the same traits. They've manipulated how they act in the gaming world because people have different desire for games. Players want to be more involved. They don't want to just sit down at a bar for a little while and play Pong. They want to actually be invested in that gaming world a little more. In the beginning, it was simply the industry understanding what are these mechanics? How do players interact with an interactive medium? As everybody started to understand those rules a little bit better, other aspects of crafting something really high-end or beautiful get work in. And so, high-end graphics started to become more relevant because we know learning how visuals interact with the storytelling and interact with the gameplay. However, high-end 4K graphics built by game developers tend to require more powerful GPU PCs or game consoles, such as the one invented by NVIDIA GeForce RTX or AMD Radeon graphics software. In those days, the game designer's main job was to create the rules of each game. It was very much of a chess of card games. In the 90s, with PlayStation and more powerful technology arriving 2 decades later, we had the gift of expression. Games became 3D, 1080p, 1440p, and in 2016, games started to get even 4K. Characters could talk, music could be created, characters could emote through detailed facial expressions. In the late 2016 and early 2017, the industry was reinvigorated with new television technology, new customers, and new talent. A new better motion picture was arrive, which not only gave birth to some of the greatest video games and movies of all time, but eventually a new industry that would generate billions of dollars and a new generation of game designers, art designers, and film producers. In the beginning of the 2020, when the flawless hero was in high school, a group of lab scientists at Wuhan Medical Health Organization got their tests from the animals' pigs to convene the very first coronavirus with the use of their own virus test tracker. Lab scientists fought it out on the machines. At the time, there was a respiratory disease known from that virus. 2 things they know. The viruses spread within 6 feet 2 meters of radius and reported to CDC to create new safety measure to wear the mask and social distancing. On March 2020, some of the events held in stadiums and television studios were closed and become virtual television shows, such as Performance Arts Center, virtual reality TV show, MetaQuest VR, virtual audience shows, and a shield behind closed windows, made to combat with a pandemic down to the last breath. This was a once in a history and the beginning of an evolution that would soon become less of a threat. In my dorm room, we would throw cables over the internet to send to other computers and start these kind of homebrew wireless competitions where we were playing all kinds of games from shooters to RTS to anything that we could just play online. I live in a neighborhood with a bunch of other gaming guys that I used to play Roblox with, and we first got RPG games and built a wireless connection in our house, and we had network cable going from each room. And oh my god, that was all we did for. Like, the next year, I swear it was just playing RPG and tycoon games with many players. And just something about collecting currency, in-game items, and then buying upgrades. Nothing can be better without unique mechanics. Growing up in America and Vietnam, the 2 countries I go was them all. I was like that as a child, teen, and I remember there was an arcade at the mall near our house called Circus Midway Arcade, Atlantis Mall Arcade, and it was a hall of noise, and all these arcade games take us to the other worlds you could go in and out of. Subway Surfers, Fruit Ninja, RPG, Simulation, Farming Empire, and many others to play. And every time a new game would show up, I would be around it and there would be crowds around it. And eventually to the point where the battles games became a thing later on. Players would literally go up and put your quarter next in line and try and take down that one kid who's kicking everybody's butt as Chun-Li. There was a time period where kids in arcade games who could rule, like at Chuck E. Cheese or at the mall arcade, or in round one, the bowling center, people would crowd around you if you were owning a game. A global society was born, a society that now not only plays and connects online, but has produced lifelong friendships, thriving communities, even marriages. And this community doesn't just exist for entertainment's sake. Games are not only one of the most connected and vocal groups, they are some of the most loyal. Friendships forged within a game experience somehow yield a bond that isn't easily broken. One of the things that is really exciting about games in general is that they've evolved far beyond that local community aspect of being able to, just play the games or enjoy your game with some of your local friends into truly global experiences where you can share your passion with people all around the world. I love the internet connectivity. I have lifelong friends that I've met online, and we started out just playing together on Roblox and then ended up, meeting up for competitions or just meeting to go hang out and kind of actually meet each other in person, and it sounds silly. But a lot of those friendships are really solidified around that joint experience that you have when you are playing a game, and that's something special and magical. That's something I saw working kind of in the internet industry all through the 90s and early 2000s was people who would meet other people online and become really a norm with them. And sometimes move to another city to try living with people, or people would get married or meet that way, and that's a whole new kind of human relationship that didn't exist many years ago. It's like a new thing. People can meet and fall in love and not have ever met in the real world. I can't tell you how many stories we've gotten of people being hooked up because people eventually get married because of the game. People that have gone through, some of the tough times like medical conditions or economical issues like the Flawless Hero experience that they've had to deal with. And the games kind of let them work through that. I see that, dance of key characters really affected every single gamer and made them cry in the game, or they got tattoos of the logo of the games on their bodies, or the Flawless Hero and others met on Roblox playing the game, and now they play with other players every night. There are kids out there who exist now because their parents not only met in Roblox, but also World of Warcraft, League of Legends, Minecraft, Like video games have changed the course of human evolution to some degree and created whole new mating rituals and ways of social interaction that didn't exist. And that's as a result of the internet and video games. So it's gonna be interesting to watch all of that evolve. Video games are gonna get more and more real and connect millions of people around the world. I used to play Minecraft when I was a kid, as many people around the world, including the famous Minecraft YouTubers, did. A guy that I met in Roblox, we quickly became friends, and I ended up getting gaming addiction, like the alcoholic booze. 10 years later, I learned how to set my time management goals because we have a stricter schedule when to take care of the missions and when to do real commitments. We shared the same passion for games, had a lot of similar values and ideas, and we had a lot of great shared experiences online where we really form a deep bond and true friendship and has blossomed into a great, long-lasting friendship in the real world. I saw someone who also played Roblox about the obstacle course, tycoon, strategy, and racing. So the Flawless Hero is a one-man army standing. And without video games to fall back into, our hero would be sitting in his room, depressed out of his mind and his gaming world. And all his friends would really support it from through that really painful time, and the guy who was observing this was basically saying, "You guys don't really understand it, cause I know you hear this all the time, that violent video games are the problem in the world, etc. but games are so meaningful to people and the friends that they build around it. The creativity and the immersion and everything else that comes with it is actually very valuable and is something you learn a lot from. I went to the relative's place and I can't even really describe it. But I basically fell to the relative's traps because the play bedroom is so small, as one of my cousins later spread viruses to me. Our hero grandma in Vietnam ended up in the hospital for about a week, and you're really afraid. And you really don't know, you're like sad and you have all this anger and you don't know where to aim to survive through the tough times. And my friends and relatives started bringing stuff up to me. And at first it was food, and then they started bringing ways to play games up. I got a little tic-tac-toe. And I was playing chess on that, and I had a tablet, and I was playing Dynasty Legends 2 on there. And I had GameHouse and other activities, and that really was the turning point. During the event, where I wasn't scared anymore, I wasn't as mad, I had something to do. Because part of the stroke that was awful was I went blind out of my right eye, and it's sort of crazy how not just the GameHouse games in the hospital that really got me through it. It's been everyone around me in this industry. In all different companies and all different states. So yeah, in a very literal way, I think video games management really saved my life. The world is now engulfed in an artistic, social, and technological revolution like never before. Interactive entertainment is the ultimate expression and delivery format, but who will determine what stories are told and how we will experience them in the future? The answer is simple. Children have a limitless capacity for wonder, imagination, and creativity, and they aren't afraid to fail. When I learned history in middle and high school, it was the most boring class. Old books with black and white images in them, and I saw the world history, the US history and constitution, that was talking about turbuckets, archers, crossbow, and knight shield and sword set, which were old, medieval weapons that used from history to virtual gaming. But many gamers had actually experienced using a chessboard because, of course, gamers have done it in the virtual world. And I think they were younger to have young children telling other gamers their opinions of medieval siege weapons versus my version of it, which was so incredibly boring, is a fundamental change to education through entertainment that can make history and things like that much more engrossing. My adopted Vietnamese cousin, he is 12, and he is faster at things that I'm not as fast at. He is genius at chess, and it's because while his mind was developing, he had access to interactive media such as watching other players in chess that was much more advanced than the interactive media that I had, and the interactive media that I had was the first time. Our heroes' parents didn't have any interactive media when their brains were developing. Video games, they provide a space for learning how to fail safely and successfully. As a culture, we have a real obsession with always getting things right. We are afraid of failing. Video games provide us this very safe space to learn how to problem solve, to think through these issues that we can't quite get right, to help us realize that it's okay to fall on our face occasionally. If we learn from that, we eventually can succeed. Because it's simulation, we can do things and experience, practice, and test those things that either aren't feasible or aren't safe in real life, in the real world. Despite the mainstream acceptance of video games during 2020 and 2021 pandemic, By 2022, the term gamer still seemed to be a close cousin to geek or nerd. If you were a serious, dedicated gamer like me, you were seen as part of a strange subculture. But the winds of change were blowing, and this perception would soon shift. Being a gamer would soon be in vogue. It's a borderline religious experience to stand in the middle of an esports VR stadium, packed full of tens of thousands of players cheering for their favorite teams across the world. It's just awesome to see the gaming shows because it's easy to doubt that kind of passion would actually manifest in the physical environment, and people, including film and TV stars, would pay hundreds of dollars or travel thousands of miles to come to these events to watch people play video games, and they do and they love it. I always been kind of insane by the perception of video game nerdiness and things like that. For my career, making and playing games that feel like some are blockbusters and don't feel like, Roblox adventure games, to having the courage to put myself out there on camera and put on a clean shirt and kind of change that perception as well, to just evangelizing games overall and to also evangelize the career. And so, over the course of my 20 plus year gaming career in this gaming business, I've always hoped that there are some kids out there who see sports players, football, baseball, basketball, tennis, golf, hockey, ping pong, or, astronaut. And they're like, yeah, that's awesome, but maybe video games, Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft? Maybe that's where I want to be. And there are a lot of other gamers who message me or send me private message in chat. And they're just miserable because they're isolated. They haven't found their groups or clans, And I think that's sort of like my mission, is to connect people and make people happy and give people friendships. Because I never had that growing up. I never had my own group. That's how communities really started up. It's just being able to find people with similar interests. When you're a kid, it's really only like if your next door neighbor play. But now, we're all adults and have the ability to reach out and connect with someone else. It's clearly a culture where everybody's having fun. Everybody's got a smile on their face. They're living their life in an extremely powerful way. The old saying, oh, computer are for geeks and stuff and video games are for geeks, has died. It's dead. No one doesn't have Facebook. Angry Birds, Farmville, people almost don't even think of that as a video game. There's become this blur of what is a video game and what isn't. Is Facebook gaming a video game? It's indeed true. It's interactive like a video game and you can do stuff on it. The world's really different now, and it's because those of us that grew up being ostracized and looked down upon and treated like we were radioactive by mainstream culture, created our own culture, and we took the things that we love. We took the video games, technology, and engineering, and we built our own world out of those things. And that world is so awesome that the mainstream culture that made fun of us when we were kids for loving this culture. That's so awesome. We couldn't deny it and couldn't help but be seduced by it. We are celebrating 20 years of the Flawless Hero since joining video games starting today. We also celebrate the Flawless Hero Studios' 10-year anniversary simultaneously. It's the television studio we ran tirelessly and continuously throughout the years. I broke a seat on those games. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the video gamer addict, the Flawless Hero. Hey everyone, it's me, the Flawless Hero. Once again, I know a large amount of video games, which is why I've decided to review them. GameHouse is suitable for time management, which we all need our game time. The GameHouse Original Stories is here to stay. In 2023, with realism in games reaching new levels and more visceral, action-packed fare appearing on the list, a new conversation started: violence. Home of video games isn't holding back the violence. Dynasty Warriors and Warriors Orochi, two of the bloodiest games, were released a few years apart, back in 2018 and 2021. Those games encourages players to use different characters and movesets, which is called Musou weapons. Kids who play video games too often are more likely to be violent. That's the finding of studies out of Japan's Tokyo University. There was no rating on new games when the game was introduced until the ESRB determined and rated them. They have a great deal of information that is context and promotes models of violence. Recommendations on other games after that series at meetings, and as you mentioned, the latest with video game producers who said, don't blame the developers. There's always a lot of media talking about violence in video games, and certainly there are violent video games. That's now how people describe the medium of gaming. If I were to go to the cinema and I were to just watch Sonic the Hedgehog or other movies, and I came away and you asked me what I felt about the cinema, I would say it was the most disgusting, violent, gratuitous thing. And that's what the media has done, is it's focused on a few titles, and that has ended up in consumers' mind, defining what this industry is. It's weird how, when you watch the people, they go to Congress and they're angry, the kids are being corrupted. I'm like, yeah, exactly, they're kids. You should not be corrupting them. Parents leave them alone 10 hours a day. And they say kids are playing games for more than 3 hours per day. I mean, it's like finding others addictions like Xbox game consoles, gaming PCs, and PlayStation game consoles with Roblox player under the bed and then blaming Roblox. Any other industry that we have these rating systems in place, and there's going to be something for everybody. The system put measures in place. ESRB are everybody's guidelines. Video game producers make sure that they build their games to the rating. It gets checked on a regular basis. The interesting thing with games is that players actually have an even better rating system than movies, but there's still kind of this general misunderstanding with the elder generation that somehow all games are like Grand Theft Auto. People like to make just kind of a casual ink and say video games cause violence, and it's like, well, let's see. There's more crime in the summer and more ice cream is sold in the summer. Therefore, ice cream causes crime. That's not how legitimate scientific research works. Violence, unfortunately, is a part of human nature, and last time I checked, every gamer didn't botch Dynasty Warriors 9 with a PlayStation 4. Some gamers didn't have an Xbox Live, part of Microsoft profile. And Newbie Banga didn't play Crash Bandicoot. We have unfortunately had a lot of looting crime that targeted Apple and CVS in downtown LA 2 weeks before Summer Solstice 2025. And I remember someone posted after one of the incidents happened that when people started accusing video games of being an influence for this, they were like, wow. I wonder how all those other countries with the same exact video games as us don't have as much loot. It'll be like saying, we don't want anyone to go watch movies because almost all movies are violent. But people don't say that because everyone really understands movies and TV shows as a medium. I don't believe that video games are mystery simulators. If anything, what the statistics prove is that it's exactly the opposite. We survive a lot of things as gamers for a really long time. We survived Congress, busybody parents, worldwide based virus, including variants. You realize that it's about imagination and invention and a connection to a world, and it doesn't have these big trappings that people apply to them. So, it's a problem that just gonna naturally evolve away. And we just have to defend the industry until that evolution happens. The campfire. We've all been there. Whether an actual campfire or just listening to someone like me is telling a great story. As humans, we've always had the ability and desire to suspend our disbelief. The flawless hero and others have opportunities to be storytellers, to be able to give the consumer the opportunity to place themselves in a world for as long or as little as they want. We have the realities of life every day. Whether it's the economy, getting by, or a job and earning funds, but we have a medium that we can put ourselves in. Day-to-day life isn't always exciting. And if at the end of the day, you can turn on a tablet, a PC, a console, and just kind of escape into another world, it's a wonderful thing that essentially allows people to live the dream. The storytelling in games is just as good as the movies. It's just as good as reading a book. With the resurrection and renaissance of GameHouse Original Stories from 2007 to 2025, GameHouse began another evolutionary step forward: story. This fundamentally changed the audience's expectation of what better games really was and raised the bar for game designers everywhere. Storytelling in games is a challenging beast to tame. As we play games in GameHouse Original Stories, our heroes must follow the rules, what they set up universe that makes sense and have their own sense of logic, and once we've established what their logic is, then we let each player's mind and imagination to solve problems and work their way through those worlds. One of the things we've really learned over the last 2 decades is ways to tell stories without a cutscene, without stopping the interactivity, to have the story be something that emerges from the play itself. GameHouse Original Stories are a lean-forward experience, whereas film and television are a lean-back experience. You're driving every moment of the game. Some YouTube gamers in the past, back in 2010s, actually compared games to novels in the fact that you stop reading, the novel doesn't keep going. Video games are very much the same. Telling a story in video games, including GameHouse Original Stories, Dynasty Warriors, Warriors Orochi, can be more intense because then you have to anticipate the actions of the player. Whereas in a movie, you decide what both characters say and then you write it down and that's what they say. Storytelling in games and original stories are an interesting problem right now because we don't fully understand it. The movie industry has been around for more than a century, and they have a really good idea of what it means to tell a story in that kind of visual medium, and the game industry doesn't have all those rules yet. Either reading a book or watching a movie is completely passive. You're letting the storyteller give you their vision of their world of whatever story they want to tell you, and you're listening to their stories. It's unfolding for you. You're not affecting that. With games, the journey is the reward more than the ending or the payoff. This is our routine. Day and night, all we do is survive. It never gives up. The idea of spontaneity within storytelling is something that's unique to video games and studios. You can't just change how a song sounds midway through. You can't just change the end of a book while you're reading it. But in certain games, for example, Dr. Care's Family Practice, your decisions have a direct outcome on the ultimate fate of characters. That's unique and sweet. And I think that's what people respond to. Can you imagine if you were redoing Dr. Care's Family Practice and you get Crystal to tell the truth, says Josie is missing, and you, as Jack, go, "Where's she? I'm looking for Josie." And then the rest of the movie, scenes, and all of them are completely different because you made that choice. And that is where video games fundamentally and vastly different from every kind of nerd media that I love. Whether the classic Dynasty Warriors series or more modern translations, one thing humanity has never had a problem with is the willing suspension of our disbelief. The earliest storytellers saw the primal power in writing, reading, and telling stories, true or fictional. Once you show a player what a world looks like and how it functions, they get into the world, and then that is their virtual reality. And so, as a modern game makes a flawless hero, we must keep remembering that the suspension of disbelief comes from the creation of a universe and the creation of the world. An immersive world that has rules that are predictable and logical, and not for the visual eye candy that we get with all this horsepower. And now that we have new consoles that deliver mind-blowing graphics, beautiful explosions, and immersive worlds, there's something more to it. We've taken our inspirations from outside of video games with emotion and character development and storytelling in a way that we strive to break new ground, that you have an association and an attachment with a character in a game that makes players want to feel for that story, makes players want to like they're making the decisions all along the way. Good storytelling is not just entertainment. Stories also can help us grow. They can teach us about the past and challenge us to aspire to higher and greater things. The story experience in a video game is no different. The campfire is just a bit brighter and more colorful. So many things have to perfectly sync up for them to work. Talented people have art, writing, music, backgrounds, timing, the voice actors, acting, and then video games. A hero has everything on top of that. It has to be engaging user experience as well. So a good video game is probably the hardest thing to make. If you want emotion, you need a human face. And in the world of film and TV series, that is the cheapest thing that you can acquire. You point the camera at somebody and you have it instantly. But in the world of games, you have as many investment in technology before you see anything that is human. The most exciting part about gaming industry in Flawless Hero is that we are constantly inventing and being fearless about that challenge of invention. And invention is difficult because if you already knew what it was going to be, you wouldn't be inventing it. It would already exist, right? So, whenever we invent, whether it's a design idea, technology, or a stylistic thing, or something related to the story. We kind of depend upon this trust that there will be inspiration, that there will be revelation. Then you got to get in and start prototyping stuff. So you build a bunch of prototypes and you start trying to understand. Are the ideas we had really fun once you put them into an interactive environment for any experience? At the alpha stage, hopefully we'll see the fun. It's pins and needles time because it's that awkward teenage years that you could be an awesome experience in Roblox. It could really come together nicely. Everyone's really enthusiastic because there's something there to play from beginning to end. But there are some weird elements to it, and you just had a bunch of people come through and point out all your awkwardness, your buck teeth, and your crazy looking eyebrow and all that stuff. And you're sort of hoping that, okay, I see that. I understand it. Now I need to go back and fix those things a little bit, make myself a little prettier, get back out on the street and show myself off again. You start layering on all the really rich assets. Things like a great story, the high fidelity art, the fully detailed characters, and once you start bonding the super high production quality with those original bare bones prototypes of your design ideas, you can start really bringing the product together. And then the work to go from alpha to beta is generally speaking a laundry list of things that we have to check off and make sure are working properly, such as Infinity RPG, Challenge RPG, Tycoons, and Dynasty Warriors M. We don't touch those as much at alpha, but they certainly are on our minds. At that point, as we start to kind of polish up the game, make those adjustments to the gameplay, really try to hone down on what's working well, and maybe give it some more resources and time to develop and sort of put aside those things that aren't working as well. One of the big revolutions we had since 2020 was we started bringing in people and a flawless hero to play our games and watch them play. That's it. But it transformed the way that we make games and experiences. Up until that point, we've pretty much been making the game experiences for ourselves, such as Dynasty Warriors Overlords. And so, if we thought it was fun, we were done. You sort of had to make a game and then do, kind of one of these. Did it feel right? You had your QA quality assurance department, but they were paid employees, so if you were getting the best feedback. But now, we have this beta testing and ability to talk with the gamer fans, and if you're utilizing that correctly, it's really powerful. So you hand this, what you think is the gold master off to the first property for the party, in the console world anyway. This PC size definitely still more of a Wild West, but there's a lot of backlash certainly if you can't deliver quality or you have lots of bugs in a PC product. So people hand it off to Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and you wait for long. And usually, it's a 10-day waiting game. And it's always the most nerve-wracking time, is that, okay? Is this going to make it true? And so, we get that call, or maybe an email, maybe 10 days later or so, and it's, hey, looks good. Celebration ensues. Or you've got these critical issues and these minor issues, and you need to fix, the critical issues and as many minor issues as you can and resubmit. And then it hits the streets. People either love it or hate it, most of the time, both. You get both ends no matter how good your game is. And you sort of have to roll with the punches. You let people say their piece. I look out every time. Things have changed beyond belief. Titles we saw, 1,000 man-years of programming, artwork, and design work went into them. It's astonishing. It's making a movie times 1,000. It is daunting. I don't know why I do it, however. The evolution of great storytelling in video games couldn't have come at a better time, like 2024. It seems as if the technology rose to the occasion at precisely the right moment. From the turn of the century to now, games have never looked, felt, or played better than entering the next generation. It's funny because every few years, the industry of the flawless hero reinvents itself. Whether that's we figure out a new way to give new experiences, Dynasty Warriors 9, Empires, Warriors Orochi 4 to players, or there's a new piece of hardware out there or some new technology. iPhone, iPad, Mac, Samsung, Nvidia, or others, some new interface. There's always the new challenge. Right now is a really difficult time for the industry. We are in transition of consoles, and we are seeing a lot of the economic scorecard have come in about what games do and do not make revenue and which are the best to be doing. Honestly, no one would predict that the platforms that are most popular right now, 2000s or 2010s, no one would have predicted that's what would be the norm now. Every new console generation, we get more and more horsepower, and every generation, there are people who say, is this enough? Okay, oh, this is really awesome. And then 5 minutes later, guess it wasn't that awesome. I need a new, better thing. You know, because we're just so spoiled with it. The medium has grown up a lot from the early days. Part of it is that we finally have the technology to render characters in a believable way, such as Dynasty Warriors, Orochi Samurai, and more. As we look as a studio how we're gonna evolve our new IP and moving into this next phase, the next generation of consoles, we are having to think outside the box. We're having to look at how we set the foundation of a structure for the course of the schedule. At this point, we're in a pretty interesting crossroads in the history of the flawless hero. Publishers, especially in companies, are fairly risk adverse right now because everybody foresees a big change happening and nobody knows that it is. I often compare Japan developers and big huge studios to a couple of guys in a Dynasty Warriors M and an entirely fully loaded roster. Each one has its own strengths, and where the Japan guys literally and figuratively run circles around the big publishers is that they are a lot more mobile. They don't have to make as many complicated boardroom-based decisions. They can focus on the kind of game that they want to make. And because of things like Steam, they can take their game, make it awesome, and then get it directly to players who then spread the assistance of their game because they love it so much that they are telling other people about it. They're sharing it on forums, they're giving it to their friend list, and they don't really need to make that investment of ridiculous amounts of funds on advertising and marketing. The Nvidia games have beautiful graphics, big budgets, incredible art teams, but that's not always necessarily what makes a great game. Really, whenever a platform has opened itself up to allow hobbyists to be able to create products, you get incredible amounts in innovation. The interesting thing about that is when you get to a team of 200 people, the ability to innovate is pretty much zero. You have to basically go with what was designed originally, and that's what the game becomes. The smaller the team, the more you can discover the really important flashes of lightning and insight that happens after large parts of the game are done. And then you're like, oh, what would be really fancy is in this section at that second if we could do this. You know, and if you have a 200-person team, you can't pivot on a dime like that. You have to be like, well, that would be nice, but we don't have time and we have to get done. I do think that there's like a revolution of food in gaming where people are interested in finding new games that have more character and soul than what they've experienced before. A large amount of game developers such as Roblox might not be able to take big risks on a virtual reality title that only works in VR meta quest and really utilizes it. But in indie, they're driven by passion, by wanting to make the best game possible. They're usually not sitting there saying, how can I make something that really gives me a nice return on investment? And that's going to become more and more important in the game space in the coming years. Where do we go from here? Many gamers think that when it comes to the next generation of the campfire, the traditional game controller tied to a screen gameplay experience may have its limitations. One of the things I'm most excited about is virtual reality. A lot of us can remember back in the early 2010s when movies like Disney Princesses came out and VR was going to be the next big thing. And it never really was because the headsets were big and clunky, the graphics were crappy at 720 pixels. Well, thanks to recent advances in smartphone technology, screens, and tracking devices, VR is set for a big comeback. I didn't actually start out to test the virtual reality headset. I set out to buy a really nice Meta Quest. So I tried testing all manner of different head mounts, and none of them was really what I wanted for playing video games immersively. And so I said, oh sugar, well, it looks like I'm going to have to actually try to make my own. And I actually found that it was something that there was a lot of technology that had advanced over the last few years, and it was actually something that was finally possible to do. How do you walk around a virtual world? How do you physically move in a natural way behind just sitting down and using a keyboard and mouse? That's why many Facebook inventors developed the Meta Quest. It's an interface that allows you to interact and move freely and naturally in your favorite game and more. Well, when you break it all down, I hope we never get rid of the kind of gaming where I just get to sit on a couch and push some buttons for a while. Could those early pioneers, whose ideas eventually gave birth to an industry, have guessed what it one day would become? Would it be foreign to them? Or did they have a feeling from the beginning that the ideas and creativity of each generation of new designers and artists would forever reinvent the medium? You know, back when Flawless Hero was playing Roblox, I think people would have laughed if you said, this is going to be a meaningful art form and it's going to be in the Smithsonian one day. I never thought it would amount to anything. David was running around saying, oh, it's going to be a massive industry. We're going to sell millions of game experiences and it's going to take over. And I fully expected that Roblox was going to fall until David, and others came back from visiting other theme parks. He informs us they want to pay salaries for us, like $1 million big paycheck. It was like, what? The amazing thing for us, Back in the early times, we envisioned this. We really did look forward to a day where the Flawless Hero play games until the gaming retirement day, where would be interactive movies. So we are there. The spirit of curiosity and invention that was there at the industry's creation is still its driving force. Today's game designers continue to give audiences new and fresh interpretation of classic stories. What began as a single pixel and the birth of the Flawless Hero has now redefined what storytelling is for the 21st century and beyond. The future of the flawless hero inherently gets tied up into the future of films and TV series, programs, technology, in a lot of ways. And it's really hard to know beyond a couple of years where everything is going to go. We have a faster rate of invention than probably any medium before it. Video games in the next few decades is going to be unimaginable, where you can't tell fantasy from reality and you can live the dream that you've always wanted to live. They have a lot of really intelligent people becoming intelligent through the use of this stuff. Video games are inching towards the holodeck because that's the end goal, is to have to be as much like real life as possible. Couldn't the whole world just be digitized and that makes it an easier, safer, and better place? I could see us getting there as quick as lightning. What is the ineffable sort of characteristic that makes real life important? I think this is what video games are going to start challenging in the next 20 years. The size and scope of the modern flawless hero might well be far beyond the greatest expectations of the men who began it. But games will continue to be created, as they always have, by drawing on history and culture, imagination and technology, to deliver stories and experiences that delight and challenge generations to come, whatever form the games may take. That's why a lot of nerds play video games, because we have it pretty tough. We don't quite fit in. But in a game, we always fit in. Always. Even though developers make them every day, even though I play broken games for years before they're perfect and we put them on a shelf, and there's so many issues that go along with that. I still have the capability of being transported back to that little kid wrapped in a blanket, staying up way too late, sitting in front of a tiny television, obsessed. And I really want to give that to another kid and have him feel the same thing 20 years from now as well. It's the same reason that kids play cowboys and Indians when they're young, or gamers saw Star Wars. You want it to be that. It's fantasy fulfillment. And being able to do fantasy fulfillment on the level of fully interactive worlds that you can explore and get lost in. It was how to get my games to delight as many people as possible. And it's coming back to this fundamental thing that we do in the games industry, is delight people and entertain people. I used to say to people, someday everybody will become a gamer except the flawless hero, which set the retirement date is another thing to transition to real things. And that was like an aspirational thing. Now, I can't even use that line anymore, because back on September 1st, 2024, I, the flawless hero, have officially permanently retired from the whole Roblox universe. This is something which we never expected, which was an assumption you have in the film industry to some degree, that you make a film and people could archive the film and see it decades or centuries later. In the game industry, I never thought that would be the case, as Dynasty Warriors M came to an end 5 months since the flawless hero's retirement from Roblox. And seeing people who are still loving these old games means that they'll probably be surviving for decades to come in some form or another. There are a lot of people that have dreams, but our hero's dream is to become a film or TV star to get an A-list. I like to say everyone who has ever had a shower has had a good idea. It's the people who dry off and do something about them that make the difference. The world is way too interesting to dwell on your past. And I'm proud of my participation in this industry, But what is really more remarkable is how we can take all the things we've learned and push it one step further. In 2005, the hero watched his family play games with his family members. He started school from summer 2005 that learned and listened to the nursery rhymes. During kindergarten in 2007, a hero learned the same as Sonic the Hedgehog does, as he also listened to the nursery rhymes in kindergarten as he meets the kindergarten teacher. During that year, he also watched his family play board games and action game. One was Chicken Invaders series. In 2009, when his family moved to the safe community, he started the elementary school. From that year to 2015, he continued to play games during school year and discover new games such as Dynasty Warriors on PlayStation 2, Chicken Invaders 4, Royal Envoy, Farm Frenzy, and GameHouse series. Besides games, he also watched cartoon, kid-friendly shows Sesame Street, Curious George, Disney Juniors, Fairy Tales, and Spelling Bee. In 2012, when he was 9, he watched the other classmates play games during free choice, such as Roblox. He watched other players blow up things, build things, create games, and doing game hacks and cheats using their tools. He also watched his family play games on Facebook and explore new games on Facebook and mobile, such as Angry Birds. In 2013, a hero meets new games such as Stack Off, but in 2014, he watched some of the PSA ads, and one was the Real Cause ad campaign. In 2015, when he played Chicken Invaders, he started his series using his mother's channel. That is, until Fabulous Angela was launched in July 2015. In 2016, when the first full season called Fashion Fever was released to GameHouse, he watched his mom play fashion games after Hopes and Fears came out. That is, until late 2016. At that point, he started to work out the story dialogue from video games from old to latest. He started off with Heart's Medicine Time to Heal. Then he continued with the story script and mechanics while he researched the story scene choices. During his Roblox career from 2012, he checked out new games and explored new worlds to his heart's content, such as Tycoon, RPG, roleplay, minigames, competition, and action. In autumn 2017, the Flawless Hero started high school as a freshman, while he continues the series outside Chicken Invaders such as Roblox, GameHouse, and more. He also listened to music during gaming that kept himself more focused and concentrated to gaming. In 2018, when he was in sophomore year, he joined Roblox on his own player, inheriting his family's inventory. He started afresh as new when he continues learning on his subjects and making graphics and games based on the genres. In 2019, when disasters happened in the old place on March to May, his family decided to sell their place and move to an apartment, requiring a hero to take an extended leave called hiatus, meaning a hero couldn't play Roblox or other online games without internet. However, in July, a hero and his family went on an extended vacation to Vietnam that lasted 4 months, got his video games online, and moreover, he joined Disney Magic Kingdom's APA, Asia Pacific Region database first, followed by Minion Rush, who run to help the agents take care of their criminals while doing story scripts and goals. During the hiatus, a hero didn't play Roblox because it was not available in Vietnam in 2019. However, a hero played puzzle games, chasing games, and sing karaoke during their parties. He also visited shopping malls that no one could remember their directions of shopping malls. Not even a GPS can remember. When a hero and his family went back to the USA, he continued to play offline partially, but when the new homes were built and finished, his family moved out of the apartment and moved in to the new home. In 2020, when the hero gets back the internet and started the junior year late, he studied and learned hybrid, both physical and online, while watching the CNN news that hear all around the world. And a few weeks later, one of the deadly pandemic called coronavirus that occurred in Wuhan, China. When a hero spread the news to his friends and family, everyone is surprised about that news. By February, the virus spread all across the earth, requiring some of the businesses to be closed by the CDC new regulations. And on March, the schools were closed due to the virus pandemic spreading. Not only that happened, but also WWE was moved to Performance Center in an empty arena because stadiums were closed at that time. Only professional wrestlers and WWE staff were present on TV. Fans were required to stay home, and so does the flawless hero. Hence the message, stay home, play more. Few months since the pandemic happened, he returned to Roblox after all and played Pinewood Builders games such as Research Facility, Computer Core, Training Center, that is, until he stumbled upon Infinity RPG and Difficulty RPG. He played Towers of Hell and started to study the path. When he goes to senior year, he played Dynasty Warriors 3 and started to learn how to play and how to fight. He also learned classes web-based online instead of physical, not only to keep himself safe, but also learn fairly about Earth, Constitution, laws, literacy, and health. In 2021, he stumbled upon Dynasty Warriors series, from which he watched the walkthrough videos before he started to play Dynasty Warriors 6 to 9. Besides those video games, he also learned and watched those commercials and meet the cast of the A-list that starred in the ads. After he graduated from high school, he started to learn more about the commercial runs and movies outside of the gaming career. During his Roblox career, in 2022, the flawless hero joined Challenge RPG, a harder RPG game than Infinity RPG, which contains unique mechanics, attack patterns, sector rules, raids, events, defense, endurance survival, item collections, and most importantly, exploration in field. He also takes a sneak peek from new games he heard in mobile: Dynasty Legends 2, Dynasty Warriors Overlords, Dynasty Warriors M. When he first played Dynasty Legends 2, he follows the story before he continues with the game mechanics, such as PvP, events, and more. Not only that, but in 2023, he also joined Dynasty Warriors Overlords, in which it was a Vietnamese Taiwan game where it resembles Dynasty Warriors 7 main story, also featuring PvP and endless conquest. By October 2023, Dynasty Warriors M came out, and is not only looking better than 7, but also resembles Dynasty Warriors 9, but only limited characters and features from the original game. One character I loved the most was Wang Yuanji, a noble lady with beautiful figure. Other characters I favor such as Bao Sanian, Lian Shi, Sun Shangshan, Sima Yi, Sima Shi, Sima Zhao, Lady Zhurong, Cai Wenqi, Huang Yueying, and most importantly, Guan Yingping. In Challenge RPG, a hero showcases the sectors and where to obtain the items and how to beat the boss with their set. In 2024, One of the most important raids was Kappa, who defend the base from getting raided by those monsters, inspired by Tower Galactica defense. However, it was tough until he found out the real walkthrough on how to complete the sector and get all the items it had in this sector. In July 2024, the Flawless Hero announced that he prepares to retire from the Roblox universe. He made the right time at the right call to announce his retirement from Roblox. Before he retired Roblox, he showcased the final sector of Challenge RPG, called Lambda, which was the final sector before no new updates came out. He also achieved everything in other Roblox games as a series, such as getting to maximum level in Infinity RPG, level 1E plus 303, aka 1 centillion. But in Occultation RPG, he was at level 522. In Challenge RPG, the Flawless Hero was at level 302.3 trillion 3E plus 95. The level cap is 1 Google, 1E plus 100. He used Spirit Class, which is good for lifesteal to survive longer during battles. In Mythic RPG 1 and 2, he was at level 329 quintillion and 5 trillion respectively. When a hero played Button Boba Simulator in 2022 to 2024, he achieved the most progress, achieving Archmaster ranks with the stats. E28.45 million Bobucks, E14.58 million fans, E7.312 million games, E6.557 million groups, E2.851 million star creators, E1.031 million big games, E466.5k big groups, E163.6k developers, E74.83k visits, E16.21k likes, E4.203k favorites, E2.236k staff, E633 servers, 2.11 secontillion investors, and 1.36 vigintillion Roblox, with most of the boosts achieved by orb upgrades except investors and Roblox, which getting to 300 Roblox orbs goal was definitely impossibly long, that almost no one could reach that goal. Achievements: DevX, ticket upgrades, mining and dungeon upgrades, and a whole lot more. Getting to Rebirth 2400 in Ore Mining Tycoon, Rebirth 50 in Mineral War Tycoon, and lots more. The hero also achieved 9.9 million power in Dynasty Warriors M, but in Dynasty Warriors Overlords, it was more than 2 million power rating. On September 1st, 2024, the Flawless Hero has officially retired from Roblox. Then, tomorrow, he watched the programs and continued the scripts when he went to Vietnam. During 2 months in Vietnam, since retirement from Roblox, he watched TV and sometimes had fun playing games and watching others. He had fun exploring Ho Chi Minh City while he played GameHouse and worked on dialogue script just to finish what he started. In November 2024, when the hero returned from Ho Chi Minh to Tokyo, he discovered a big renovation in Tokyo Narita Terminal 2, where the shuttle was replaced with a big walkway to the main terminal for the lounge to try out the Japanese meals, and it was made to a balanced taste of fame. After he returned back to US, he discovered new things after he permanently retired from Roblox. Played Dynasty Warriors M after hearing the shutdown announcement from Nexon, getting more progress recruiting the last generals, and made a final progress to 9.9 million power, with Emerald Tier 2 1 star, level 305 Master Generals, Shahudun, Guanxin, Wang Yi, and other pupils who resonated with the masters. The top three generals who had the most power was Shahudun, 241.7k, Lu Bu, 236.5k, and Zheng He, 228k. For top generals in each faction, starting with Wei, Shahudun, Zheng He, and Wang Yi, 194.7k, were dominant. For Wu, Liu Xun, 225.5k, Zhou Tai, 220.8k, and Bu Lianxi, 214.6k, were another time. For Shu, Guan Xing was indeed quick, 200.3k, Guan Yu was strong, 199.6k, and Guan Yinping was trained, 182.5k. For Jin Kingdom, Wang Yuanji was indeed range, 199.6k, Sima Yi was brilliant, 192.2k, and Sima Shi was also known for its swift skill, 178k. For other warlords, Lu Bu, Dongbai 210.9k, and Brighter Diaqian 199.8k were in the ordinary shape. One of the top female general a hero had was Bu Lianxi, who had 215k power, while Wang Yuanji, she only had 200k power, as well as Guan Yinping, she only had 183k. Prodigious Hero also battled for the last moments until Dynasty Warriors M was shut down, after which he celebrated his video game journey to the end. 6 months after the Flawless Hero officially permanently retired from Roblox, he exported the data into the history books before he put everything in Roblox into archive on Spring Equinox 2025. Roughly 3 months later, the Flawless Hero sees most of the gaming services that are video and mobile gaming in preparation to become the next film and TV star. Today, after the Flawless Hero retired from Roblox and other gaming, he provided gratitude to every other gamer and the universe for the past 20 years of historic gaming, 13 years of Roblox gaming. Every day, the Flawless Hero moves on without video or mobile games. GameHouse Original Stories put Nitro Games out of business after the Fabulous Angela series ran for 4 years. Unable to prove their GameHouse and other games, the hero never continued with GameHouse anymore. Today, other gamers would become larger than life of esports gaming. Eventually, the Flawless Hero will forever be remembered as he was one of the ingenious heroes in the history of gaming. I want to thank all GameHouse and other video gamers and my crew once again. But most importantly, I want to thank Emily, Angela, Allison, Amy, Amber, Jenny, Jessica, and Elena. You have been with me since day one, and I am so grateful. I got so lucky that I have executive producers of GameHouse that not only knew how to make a great show, but make a great series for me because you understood me, you got me, you knew who I was, you knew my comedy, my sense of humor, you knew what I care about, what was crucial to me. You surrounded me with so much love and so much support. You nurtured me, and you found a way to make me shine brighter than I could do it by myself. You helped me be my best. I love you more than I can possibly say. Your family. And to Amy, you're my rock. You have been with me for 8 years. We have been through everything together, 20 years thick and thin. Angela, we were fabulous for 10 years. We've laughed, we've cried. You have been my constant source of support and love, and I thank you. You're brilliant, you're talented, you're super smart, genius, and prodigious. I admire you, I respect you, and I love you. To all of you who have watched this show and supported me, thank you so much for this platform. And I hope that what I've been able to do in the last 20 years has made you happy and that I was able to take a little bit of pain away from a bad day or anything you're going through the video games. And I hope I've been able to inspire you to make other people happy and to do good in the world, to feel like you have a purpose. And I said it before, but I'll say it again. If I've done anything in the past 20 years, I hope I've inspired you to be yourself, your true, authentic self. And if someone is brave enough to tell you who they are, be brave enough to support them, even if you don't understand. They're showing you who they are, and that is the biggest gift anybody can ever give you. And by opening your heart and your mind, you are going to be that much more compassionate. And compassion is what makes the world a better place. Thank you so much for being on this journey with me. We want to thank you to all of our loyal GameHouse and other video gamers for the past memories. We deeply appreciate your dedication to all our video games over the past 20 years. After all the gaming, experiencing, questing, missions, and all the endurance through every single battle, quest, and adventure, the Flawless Hero officially retired from all the video gaming. All video gaming services on the Flawless Hero is permanently offline. We want to thank you for your unconditional support, and we wish you the best on what's to come. From the early days of gaming adventures to today's history, we've been honored to share this incredible journey with all of you who are video gamers. While the Flawless Hero takes a final step towards living free of video games, we want to express a gratitude to the video gamers in the universe for all the lovely memories with us. Once again, thank you for playing with us for the past 20 years. We wish you a pleasant eternity. From the GameHouse team. Thank you, GameHouse team. Your dedication and hard work is appreciated. It's been fun. Thank you, Video Game Universe, for the past 20 years of fabulous memories. P.S. My only complaint. I can't do anything with my 100 plus characters in GameHouse Original Stories universe and 100 plus characters in Disney Magic Kingdoms. I feel the love and I send it back to you. Bye and sayonara.